Alright guys, I got the bumper off for other reasons. We're gonna go ahead and do this headlight. So, as promised, we're gonna make this look like this. So you can see I've got it taped off, just in case I overshoot the sandpaper a little bit. Get a good look, best we can at the finish, before and after. I'm going to start with 800 grit. I know the kit only comes with 1000, but I do know better. So we'll go ahead and cut with 800. We'll probably do 2 passes and then just go straight to 2000, and then I will actually use the 3000 supplied with the kit. So as always guys, you've got to make it look worse before you make it look better. I didn't feel like dragging the hose over here, so I'm just using a spray bottle with water in it. So. Go ahead and work from top to bottom. Barely see. I'm very glad I went with 800. I'd almost rather go down to 600. I've got to use a decent amount of pressure. All those fine little cracks we were looking at earlier, so you can see that haziness. That is after our first layer. That first layer removed. See all those fine little cracks? That's what we were trying to remove. You can see they are starting to blend over into our more hazy area. Now those might be a little deeper. There is a term called, and I did look this up, it's not like I knew this before. There's a term called crazing, where it's just the cracks, they're just very, very, very fine, small cracks because the plastic's just so dry. And they do go a little deeper than just the surface layer. But as you can imagine, I mean, we're going to hit this pretty good with the 800 grit. I'm going to go 2 passes, then we'll hit it with 2000 and 3000. It's going to look way better than it did. So let's pause for a minute. So I still give this kit all the praise in the world, but this little Pucka 1000, you might as well just throw it away when you get the kit. And when you buy this kit, pick up a 5-pack or a 10-pack of 800 grit or 600 grit or even 1000 if you want to do 1000. If you want to follow the rules of the kit, that's fine. But you can see, like I've mentioned before, the first step and the last step are the most important. First step being the initial cutting. You're removing the entire surface layer. So this little Pucka 1000, I don't know what they were thinking. Now that we're actually doing this on a headlamp versus a helmet visor or a lawnmower lens cover, yeah, that's, you know, like I said, I'm sure this is a decent quality. It might last quite a while, but this isn't going to do you any favors. In fact, that's going to make it a little harder for you if you're not used to this and this is your first time doing it. And most importantly, if you just follow through and you're not really seeing what's going on, and you just follow through with the first pass and the second pass, and then apply your sealer and everything after you buff it, I mean, you might not get the finish you want. Alright guys, this is where we're at so far. You can see some of the lighter areas. where I've got to get a little bit deeper with the 800, usually around these edges. It's always stubborn. But this is after a half of a sheet of 800 grit, and my two sheets are pretty well spent. They're just gliding across the surface at this point. They're not cutting any deeper. Alright guys, the lens isn't fully dried, so it might look a little off. I still haven't gone through and done these edges, but you can see where we are at with one sheet. Those four little pieces are just completely spent. Again, don't mind the weird texture. It's not fully dry yet. So I've just got a little bit more to cut the primary layer off, and then I'll go back in with the detail work on the 800, and then we'll go to 2000 grit. Alright guys, so we're almost done our initial heavy cut, the first pass with the 800 grit. You can see there's still a little bit of those fine cracks when you get really close up along the edges there. I'll take some fresh 800 along the outside of this to see if I can't blend them in better. Again, we're not, I mean, that's the size of my hand. I mean, they're not a car this old. You're not really going to notice or really pay much attention to that once the lens is refurbished. But I said we'll spend a little bit more time around the edges. We'll do a lighter pass with 800 just to smooth everything out a little, and then like I said, we'll go to 2000. I've got probably about an hour into this already, and we are at a sheet and a half of 800. This still has some life left in it on the other half portion on this side, so I'll use that to go around the edges. So like I said, again, buying that kit and thinking you're going to use that little 1000 grit puck on both headlights, no. Alright guys, I haven't dried it off yet, but it's still wet, so it's not going to look right. So that's the first pass of 800 grit. Like I said, I used about a sheet and a half for that. Headlamp's completely dry. You can see I've just got a little bit more cutting to do along the edges. Really trying to see how deep those little cracks go. Surely I should be able to get them, but I'm going to try one more time with 800 around the edges. Again, I may be wasting my time. I feel maybe buffing these will help hide them a little bit, but you can see just a little bit more detail work to do with the 800 before we hit it with 2000. Alright guys, we're gonna go straight into 2000. Alright guys, I think I'm just gonna go right for it and use the 3000 grit little puck that came with the kit. So we used about 2 sheets of 800 to get this down. there's some small little spots still where you can see that kind of cracking. I don't really want to go any deeper. I can tell I'm just starting to cut into those fine little cracks along this edge here. But I'm not necessarily that worried about. I'm more interested in the entirety of the lens and the finish. I'm not worried about getting a foot away from it and having to look at a weird angle to see these tiny little cracks along the very edge. I'm not that worried about it. So I haven't mentioned, we used about 1 3/4 sheets of 800. We only used like 1/4 of 2000. I could probably hit it twice with the 2000, but I'm not really seeing any spots that need touched up. It's pretty uniform. It's pretty smooth all the way around. So I'm just gonna go straight to the 3000. And the great thing about this kit is as you're polishing, if you see a spot that you somehow missed, or you see a spot that you can tell isn't going to come out the way you want it and you got to cut a little deeper, you can really just cut that one section, smooth it out to where you were, and repolish that one section. So it's nice that you have that functionality. Starting to look like a headlight again. It's funny, it's almost back to how it looked before we started. Alright guys, that's after our 3000. As you can see, there's just little nicks in the plastic. Those are just rock chips. You really can't do much with those. Kind of see like where it's a little darker and a little lighter. Right at the line where that little rock chip is. Again, I don't know if that's from the 3000 or the 2000 or how much deeper we got to go, but so it's fairly uniform. It's getting there. So it's pretty much the equivalent of two heavy passes with 800, focusing on some rougher sections, then a light pass of 800, a rough pass of 2000, a light pass of 2000, and then two passes of 3000, once counterclockwise, once clockwise. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go buff this now and see what we come up with. Alright guys, just like the first video, we've got our extremely dusty buffer and our Plastex compound. So I'm going to give it a good shake. Go ahead and apply it to your pad and we'll buff away. Looks way better than it did. Again, this was only after the first pass. I'm gonna go ahead and try again. A little bit higher speed, a little less pressure, and we'll see how that turns out. Still just a little hazy over here. Now again, we didn't apply our sealer. I just wondered if that's not on the inside. Almost looks like at some point there was some condensation on the inside of this lens. You know, all those little cracks are gone. almost want to hit it again with the buffer in this area. From here over it's okay. I think it's about as good as it's going to get without our sealer. Alright guys, this is after about 2 rounds of buffing. You can see up in this area it's still a little bit hazy. I believe that may just be from some condensation that got inside the lens at some point. I mean, it looks way better than it did. There's already a little dust sticking to it, so. Alright guys, pretty much buffing for a 3rd time, because why not? Alright guys, I'm assuming that's about as good as it's gonna get. I know it looks, the lighting is weird. Obviously there's a glare directly on the lens, so I think I'll go ahead and pull the car back into the garage and then we'll apply our sealer. So I'm using a microfiber now. That's what it says to use before we apply our sealer. And of course it does actually specify to apply this in the shade. It does tell you to shake this very well, which is something we didn't do when we did the visor. So I'm going to apply from the low side to the high side, from right to left. So I want to try to go a little thinner on this side just in case of the paint. I mean, I'll be quick to wipe it off just in case. Add a little bit more. Like I said, now I'm going to go from left to right. Add a little bit more as we go. Might be using too much, but I really don't know. Should probably be wearing gloves. It's all running out the bottom. And I can see all the little dust particles sticking to it. You waste so much of it. Like, where did it? Maybe I put too much in the sponge. But it was drying out as I was applying it. I could tell the coats were getting slightly thinner. I might have put a little too much on, but I'll get over it. I'm gonna go wash my hands now. Y'all can wash this dry. Didn't turn out too bad. So something I realized at the last minute, that's the low beam. That little lens is actually fogged up itself by itself. So the more I look at this, the more I kind of see evidence for a lot of what little haziness you see is on the inside of the lens. So if you look towards the top, About an inch down, you can see the kind of little streaks, the little wisps. That's all on the inside. That's more condensation, or moisture rather, was kind of running down slightly. You can kind of see this darker area, this little streak. See how the actual plastic is textured differently in this area? It's all on the inside of the lens. Kind of see right around here, that line. That's all on the inside from the heat from the light. Heating up that moisture against the plastic and messing with it. I mean, you can see though, other than that, it's pretty crystal clear in most parts. Now the other problem is you can already see all the little dust particles that got caught on the sealer. I mean, guys, it is what it is. You can be as careful as you want, but I'm happy with it. So again, we've got more content coming. So thanks for watching.